That's big business. Hit 10, but that's big pimpin'. My potential, that's infinite. Pin game insane. Make hits like King Griffin, a 10th inning.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an episode of the 10th Inning Podcast. We got an interesting one in store for you. We'll get to that in just a moment. I'm Sean. He's Dan. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well. This man right here is doing well as well. Today we're going to come at you with our utility top five, our DH top five, some top five relievers. You know, we're kind of cleaning up. We got 2 weeks before the season, Sean, so we're trying to jam in some of these, I would say not as important positions, but not as holistic positions, we'll say.
More often overlooked.
And we're going to often overlook them again today, unfortunately, for them and their families. However, Sean, this man, who you saying, why the hell he's nor a reliever, utility man, or DH, in my great opinion, Sean, he could have been the greatest of all three. Today's his birthday, Sean. So I'd like to shout out Clayton Kershaw, wish him a happy birthday. Big one for him. Still a young man. I'm not even going to say his age because I think it's blasphemous to do that to him. People like to say he's 40. I'll have you know he's no older. He's under 36. Sean, that's how I'll say it. He's under 36 today, and I think that's beautiful.
35?
Happy birthday to Clayton Kershaw, okay? He could be 28. He could be 28. I don't know. I'm just saying he's under 36.
He's got the body of a 45-year-old, or the back of a 45-year-old.
Is this how you want to start off this podcast right now, Sean? Is this your
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. All right, you can mess with me, Sean. But I don't find any of that funny. All right?
Hey, comment below if you think that was funny.
He's 35 years old, so let's hop off the back that he's old. Talk about not DeGrom, but DeGrom's damn near 35 anyway.
Hey, he's no longer a Met, so he's
Scherzer and Verlander. Have fun over there, Sean, with your actual 40-year-old backs. Have fun. Yeah. You know who I won't be talking to my reliever list this year, Sean?
Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, because he won't be there. He tore his patella tendon just like me. Who's your first utility / DH, Sean? Who is it? Utility.
Well, to go along with making you angry, Max Muncy is my number 5 utility guy.
It is like blasphemous. This is getting crazy. This is getting a little crazy talk now, to where like, all right, he didn't make you top 10 second baseman. All right, I'm brain dead. All right, like I got some sort of weird disease going on with me. I get all that jazz. Now he's fallen so far as to have barely scraped the top 5 in a leftover pile, is what you're saying to me, Sean. I'm glad you're mentioning him on the 10th Inning Podcast. I'm glad you're speaking his name.
You want me to be frank right now? You like when I'm frank?
Be frank.
He's actually not my number 5. He's further up the list, but I just had to use that as a chance just to rile you up a little bit.
That's good. That's good.
My number 5 is Luis Urias.
Okay, I like that. I like that pick.
Now, you got to bear with me because I didn't know the stats yet.
I'm bearing.
What kind of bear are you?
Occasionally grizzly. I'd like to consider myself polar, though.
Okay. Do you see the new movie, Cocaine Bear?
No. What was it about?
It's about a bear that did a lot of cocaine. It's a true story. It was in the woods and it found cocaine and went on a rampage. And I've seen the commercials for it.
Seems like a very poignant, like that's just. It's about a bear that did cocaine.
Yeah.
Bear.
Now, you know the actor Ray Liotta, God rest his soul.
Yeah, Sean. Where are we headed right now?
That was his last movie he was in before he died. That was his great career. It was in all those great movies, but Cocaine Bear was his last film on the big screen.
And where'd you get this tidbit from, Sean? If you did this much research for the podcast, we'd be going somewhere.
You're saying I don't do research for the pod, huh?
And I'm just a little peed off. You started with the podcast and making it Clayton Kershaw, throwing shade at him. He's the number 3 starting pitcher in all of baseball, according to some experts.
Well, now you're throwing shade at my research, and I don't take that very kindly. I do a lot of research.
I'm also the expert that said that. So
Now, would you like to hear the
I'd
stats?
like to hear about Luis Urias, yeah, because I feel like him and his family didn't deserve all that.
You got to take back what you're saying that I didn't do my research.
You do your research. Can you take back about Clayton's back?
I did take back Clayton's back.
Thank you.
We're all on square one here.
Let's go.
Now, I will say this wonderful thing about Fangraphs is it has 1,000 ads pop up every time you go on there.
It is nice.
So
it is nice when that
I had to
happens.
click off that. Now, Luis here. Luis Arias, Julio Urias. They got the same neighborhood of names.
Yeah.
Now, this one's Luis Urias. How you pronounce it? I've heard many names.
Urias, Urias, however you want to do it, I feel like is really
Okay. All right. Now, what I do know is he's a solid player.
Solid play. That's the way I describe him.
He had a defensive rating of 0, which, as we've seen from the past, 10 rankings, that's not bad. That really is not bad. And he does produce offensively. Will never wow you in the offensive department. However, he did knock in 75 runs in 2021. That was most easily the high watermark of his career. He's still young, though. He's 25, so he could kick it in gear. Nothing flashy, but he's a solid player, and he's a baseball player, as you like to say, and a good team needs players like him to win a World Series.
Absolutely. He is one of those pieces in there, Sean. I don't want to say the 26th man, but he is, in a way, the 26th man can play, I think, a couple of different positions, obviously. That's why he's on that utility list. Middle infield type person, probably could play short, third and second base. Young, fiery, gets on base at a decent clip, Sean. 345 and 335 the last 2 years. That's nothing to sneer at. You'd like to see the average come up a little bit. But the home runs is like in the 20 homer range. He hit 16 in 120 games last year. He, everything the guy does. So I love that he's a perfect utility player, Sean. I think this is your best pick of the entire season somehow.
I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult.
I think it's a compliment. I think Luis Urias is a great pick for this.
I like it. He's a guy that honestly doesn't get talked about enough. When he first came up, he had a little bit of fanfare around him.
Right.
But that kind of went away. I'm not really sure why.
Who wasn't he with San Diego originally, and that didn't work out?
I don't think so. I think it just.
I thought they shipped him over to Milwaukee, and that's when the fanfare ended. Yeah, he played with San Diego 2018, 2019. They shipped him off.
Interesting. I must have somehow missed that. I'm sure an ad popped up in my way, and that's why I missed it.
For me, Sean, you're gonna like this because we're gonna go back to back Urias's. I got Ramon Urias, who I think is in the same vein, utility man, underrated. Sean, something about the name Urias.
Are they related? Right?
Cannot confirm or deny. You get on that. Ramon, unlike Luis, is a plus defender. Now, Luis is an average defender. Ramon is a plus defender, which is something that I love. When you play multiple positions, he played mostly third base last year, but he can play shortstop. He can play second base. And as we know, we got Gunnar Henderson coming up, so he's not going to be playing third base. Jorge Mateo looks like he's still going to slot in at shortstop there. They have some options in second. So we're going to see where he gets at bats this year. But I really like his bat, Sean. He's kind of like, he's that major league average, but he has great defense, major league average offense. We're talking 20 home runs, the 260 average, 320 on base. That's like you're not hurting anywhere. You get into that 20 plateau, you get into 260 on him with the average, which is honestly above average for, at this point in the MLB. With a 320 on base, it's not hurting you. So with great defense on top of that, Sean, people got to start talking about Ramon Urias with the Baltimore Orioles. And if they are related, that's a good baseball family.
They are. Ramon is the older brother of Luis.
That's a great baseball family. There you go. There you have it.
Confirmed.
Confirmed good baseball family. Sean, how sweet is that? Unplanned. After all that fighting, we go back-to-back family members. Unplanned.
I know. Hey, that's how you know we're just that good.
I mean, that's the 10th Inning Podcast at its finest. Really.
We're also gonna get that fighting and then just a complete 180, right?
Well, Sean, let me hear you number 4, because maybe I'll try and get his brother pulled up here.
Good luck. My number 4 is Brandon Drury. Talk about a career year last year.
Mark Drury. My number 4.
That's who it is? No. I was gonna say, wait a second. And he had a breakout year of breakout years last year. He hit for an average good enough to, consistently get on base, 263. Drove in 87 runs, 28 bombs, 138 games, and he actually dropped his strikeout rate a little bit from the year before. It's 25 the year before, just higher, went down to 22. I know it's only 3%, but that still is enough to really see quite a bit of improvement. And guess how old Brandon Drury is? Just take a wild guess. You might know because he did the research, but
28.
You always spot on with these. He's 29. For me, I thought he was like 1,000 years old because I remember when the Yankees traded for him.
Yeah.
What is it, right? What year was that? Was that
2019-ish?
Yeah, and then I think he had vertigo. He didn't end up playing for them much.
Yeah.
Actually, it isn't.
Came up with not Detroit, with Toronto, I believe.
Arizona, then Toronto.
Arizona, then Toronto. Okay.
But yeah,
I was a big Drury guy when he first came out.
Last year had a monster year. He was playing. He spent most of the previous year in the Mets AAA farm system, AAA team, Syracuse Mets.
Right.
And when he did play for the Mets in majors, he did well. He had like 10-game hitting streak. Like he did well, but he just could never stick around. So good to see him have a much better year. Kind of out of nowhere. And didn't he end up getting traded to San Diego, right?
San Diego.
Yeah,
correct.
now he's with the Angels. So his career just went down the toilet because of that. But no, all joking aside, not a great defender, but a very solid bat, and has really kind of, turned his career around in a span of a year.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully he keeps it up next year. This is no slight to Brandon Drury. He didn't make my list, Sean, because I was focusing on top 5 relievers. And the hitters that I got, guys, these are just guys that I think are really what my list should be, is undervalued hitters. Guys that you don't talk about enough. Sleepers, okay? Ramon was one of them. Luis kind of fit the vein I was feeling today. So that's why I was really happy about the Luis guy. But the rest of these guys, I'm not saying these are the top 5 DHs or utility guys in the league. I'm saying these are some guys that aren't being talked about enough. And the 10th Inning Podcast, they're friends of them. They're friends of the pod, Sean. My next guy here, Josh Rojas in the number 4 spot. Don't know if you know about Josh Rojas over there in Arizona. They're assembling a little bit of squadron, Sean. A little bit of a squadron they're assembling. This guy's fun, and dare I say, Sean, ball player. I think this guy's a ball player type. He stole 20 bases last year, Sean, with 50% StatCast speed. Baseball savant on baseball. I'm having a fucking stroke right now. 50th percentile sprint speed is what I'm trying to say. You don't see people with 50th percentile sprint speed stealing almost any bases, really. Usually you don't really see people stealing until they're at like 75, 80%. Then you see them stealing maybe 10, 15 bags. But to have not elite stolen sprint speeds and then to steal 20 bags in the amount of games he played, I think is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of him. Other than that, Sean, the guy hit 270 with a 350 on base. To be honest with you, I got to be honest with the fans. It was 269 and 349, but I think we can give him the .01 on both. And that's 270, 350 with 23 stolen bases and 3 caught stealing. So he was doing it in a great clip too. Talking about a guy with 25 doubles as well, 55 walks to 98 strikeouts. His strikeout to walk rate isn't terrible. He kind of just does it all. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do now, and I hope he gets a full run. He played 125 games last year. If we can get this man like a full season, I'm not saying all-star, Sean, but this is the kind of guy who will get like an all-star appearance in his career, I feel like. He's gonna steal one in by having a hot first half. He just kind of does everything. Good on base, good average, good stolen bases. The power is 9 homers, and maybe he'll hit 12 to 15 kind of thing. Nothing crazy there, but I'm a big Josh Rojas guy. Don't know if you could tell. Also plays all over. Literally every position Josh Rojas plays.
And folks, book it. He's going to have a breakout year. Book it.
I appreciate that, Sean. I appreciate that. Meant a lot to
Anytime.
do that.
My number 3 utility guy is my cover boy, Ha-Seong Kim. I think I pronounced your name right. I apologize if I didn't.
Yeah, I think that was right.
And I'm looking at on his baseball page on Fangraphs, and it has his KBO leagues, the Korean League. Man, did he tear it up! He had some monster years there, and he's only 26. Started at age 18. Like he just produced. He didn't strike out. He had a higher walk rate than a strikeout rate most of his time there. So he was a big name guy when he came over. In 2021, did not necessarily do that well. He had a fair amount of fanfare. I wouldn't nowhere near obviously what you see for other players from the other leagues, KBO or Japan. But nonetheless, he had a much better year this year, offensively and defensively. He's an outstanding defender. Had a defensive rating of 10, which is as high as I've ever seen. The year before was a defensive rating of 4.8, which is still very good. So he's built upon that. The offense has come around a little bit. He hit for a much higher average, went from 202 up all the way up to 251. His strikeout rate dropped from 23% to 17%. Drove in about 60 runs and had 11 home runs, so not tons of pop. He also swiped 12 bases. And he's, like I said, he's only 12 years old. 12. He is older than 12 years old. He's 26
like
years
I said,
old.
He's older than 12.
He's 26 years old. And I think that he's going to continue to adjust, and he could honestly be the sleeper MVP of this Padres team. Everybody's thinking about the big names. The Padres are going to have a lot of those guys have step up and be big in moments. But Kim had a really good postseason last year.
Yeah.
He did against the Mets. He, along with Trent Grisham, were the basically deciding factors of that series. So he maybe left an impression on me that and I think he's better than he is, but he was a ball player. He played defense, got on base, and he didn't strike out. So I expect him to continue to improve based off of the year 1 to year 2 in the major leagues.
Ha-Seong Kim, Sean, ball player.
Ball player.
I think what we're realizing here is utility players. This is the ball player list, Sean. These are ball. I haven't heard not one ball player. These are ball players. Maybe these guys aren't as ball player-ish because they're bigger name, and I don't think name has to do with it. There's just a certain style of play. You might like this, Sean. I have a little tandem here at my 3 spot. I'm gonna sneak in 2 guys. I got to get to 6 somehow. And that is the Pittsburgh Pirates first baseman this year. And that is 2 older veterans in G-Man Choi and Carlos Santana. Sean, I love this platoon. I think Pittsburgh Pirates first base this year, if you mold them to one player, that's a filthy platoon. I like what they're doing. I'm just saying it. I like what they're doing. Take a look, if you have time later on, folks, take a look at Carlos Santana's baseball savant page. I mean, he's all red last year. I mean, we talk about a guy who's always been, one of the best walk rates in the league. Walked almost 14% last year, Sean. Struck out just over 17%. Hits the ball extremely hard. A veteran in the league. He hasn't played as well the last 2 or 3 seasons, we'll say. He's 36 years old. But hear it now. This is the take. I think this is my 2023 Joey Votto. A couple years ago, I called Joey Votto's breakout, which was, him coming back. He said he tweaked some things in the offseason. It was like an article I read. He was going to go for more power, and he went crazy. I think Carlos Santana has a renaissance year this year and really, really does extremely well. We're talking all-star appearances, the whole thing. I'll give you my projections for him. And these aren't crazy, so I'm not talking like MVP. I'm talking like make an all-star team, make some noise, have some fantasy relevance maybe. And that's 24 home runs, a 240 average, 350 on base, with really, really, really decent defense as well. Another guy with great defense, Sean, is G-Man Choi. So we're talking about 2 veterans, both with good defense, both with good on-base skills. G-Man Choi gets on base at a 340 clip and does the splits for you while doing it. They both hit about 240, and they both got like 20 homer pop. They're essentially the same player. Their splits are kind of the opposite ways. I think this first base job over there in Pittsburgh is going to be fun, and they're two fun players too. They both take their walks.
Yeah.
I like this platoon here.
And then
Carlos,
even Josh Bell can go in there.
what'd you say?
And Josh Bell, he's placing first as well. So
Absolutely.
It's a revolving door between first base and DH.
Yeah.
When we talk about Josh Bell next ranking. Carlos Santana has one of the weirdest careers. He'll have a great year, and then he had 1 year with the Phillies at like 190, but he walked a ton. Like I could be off on that, but I think when he signed with the Phillies after leaving Cleveland, he just had a bizarre year where some numbers didn't look great, and some numbers looked fantastic. It's kind of been up and down since then.
With Cleveland, I love Carlos Santana, especially with Cleveland.
He was a catcher, remember that?
Yeah. Oh, for fantasy, if you had Carlos Santana as your fantasy catcher, you were living life. That was like having Victor Martinez. You were doing something if you had Victor Martinez or Carlos Santana as your catcher.
Yeah.
You were doing something.
Anyway, my number 2 for the utility players is the aforementioned Max Muncy. Now, I am not – see, my utility guys, we view them differently. All my utility guys I would love to have on my team. I think that the only reason they're utility is because they're versatile for the most part, aside from maybe brain injury. And they can play multiple positions. I'm not looking at it as the fact they're a cast-off. I'm looking at it that they are versatile. And I use that, as a positive, not a negative. So, Max Muncy, going to play a little bit of third base, going to play a little bit of second base. Frankly, maybe they'll have him, play center field, knowing Dave. But had just a hard year last year, a terrible year. When you look at batting average, you look at strikeout rate. But he still managed to hit 21 home runs in 136 games, driving 69 RBIs, and walked at a basically 16% clip. That's not too bad. Like you said before, and defended yourself many times from me and other people. He was injured, played through an injury, tried toughing it out, and then had a much better September. So you'd think that'd be a sign that he was healing. So I expect him to get back to normal. I think he'll probably hit in the 230 range, driving probably 75, 80 home runs or 80 runs, and maybe hit you 25 to 30 bombs. He's going to be kind of relied on a little bit more in that lineup than years past. Yeah. The Dodgers kind of shed a little bit of, I want to say salary. They just weren't out there spending it this year. We'll talk about that at some point, in the future. But I think in the lineup, he's going to have a little more of a presence, and he'll get back to what he was prior to the injury he suffered last year.
I love it. I love him. He had a great last month or two last season. He's looking good in spring right now, Sean. He's looking good in spring.
That's like Higashioka. Had looked great in spring last year.
Right, I hear you.
I'm messing with you.
It's just nice to see that he is doing well, like when he did well at the end of last year. Hopefully this is him coming back from this injury fully. Not to harp on him, but we just submitted our 18 locks. We're doing an expansion draft for the Fantrax League, which maybe we'll broadcast to you live at some point. I was on the fence with whether I should add him or not. And at the last second, I actually took off Logan Webb from my locks, and I locked Max Muncy instead of Logan Webb.
Wow.
Yeah. I just sat there, honestly, and I'm like, who do I think they would take more? Logan Webb, for sure. But if they did take Muncy, I'd be sitting there with no other second baseman on my roster. And there's no one out there I really want. And I think it would just be too much of a gut punch if I lost Muncy rather than if I lost a pitcher. So, and that was really by me seeing, okay, he is doing great in spring. Like, I think he's good enough where, like, he's above replacement level for me still. And tough call I had to make, Sean. How was your top 18? Was that tough for you? Who was the hardest guy you had to cut?
It was tough. 19? Honestly, I was hung up with Christian Yelich. I ended up not protecting him. I've been holding on to him, expecting him to break out. Not break out, re-break out, if that's a thing. I got the list right in front of me here.
So Yelich was like 19 for you.
Yeah, he was 19th. Jonah Heim was also tough because there's not a lot of catchers out there, but I got two young catchers. However, Francisco Alvarez isn't going to be playing this year much in the majors, so that was a tough one. And it's not a lot of
Yeah.
catchers, so I kind of expect him to be taken. It wasn't as tough as I had thought it was going to be.
Okay.
I valued younger age over older veterans.
Yeah.
I ended up going with Gaussman. I like Pablo Lopez, and that was a tough one leaving out for him. He honestly may have been the 18th guy for me, or the 19th
Paulo
guy.
Lopez. Yeah, that's a tough guy.
That was very tough to leave out. I ended up choosing Gaussman because I think he has a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
Lopez I like a lot. So those are
Yeah.
the toughest guys, Lopez and Yelich. So hopefully they'll make it through. But I bet Yelich will go just because he's a bigger name and he
Yeah.
has a higher potential. So that was tough.
I had to leave off Webb and I guess my second biggest guy. I don't know. I had to leave off Clase, who I'll talk about later. Relievers are like so in our league. I mean, they get you points. They certainly are nice to have, and Clase's, in my opinion, top 2, top 3 in the league. So, Clase and Webb are like 2 big names that I had to leave off.
I also had one issue too. I have Edwin Diaz. I could have left him off because he's not going to get any points this year. But at the same time, the teams coming in the league probably are not going to be great this year, so they could stomach losing.
That's the thing. I was trying to think.
Yeah, that's why I kept him because you know what, he'll be back next year. I still want him on the team. I don't want to risk losing him
Yeah.
because what do they? They're not going to win the league,
Yeah.
most likely. So I was like, and if I was in their position, I would take guys that may be injured this year but be back.
Yeah. I thought about this is my last statement on this. I know we're getting a little off topic, but I thought about taking Webb, but the reason I didn't is because Severino, and I like Webb more than Severino and Grayson Rodriguez. But I'm sitting here thinking, who's picking? Joe Welton, a Yankee fan. Justin Smith, who's now a proclaimed Orioles fan, who wants Grayson Rodriguez. So it's like you kind of have to pick and choose versus who you know. Like, yeah, they're probably going to take Webb, but I knew they were going to take Severino and Great Rodriguez. Like, I knew it. You know what I mean? There's no way they're not. I'm kind of hoping they take someone else. But neither here nor there. Sean, my number 2 for utility guy, you're going to like this. Rookie of the Year winner in 2020, Kyle Lewis. I think we've all forgotten about Kyle Lewis a little bit. He's with the Arizona Diamondbacks now. Not the greatest place for an outfielder to go right now. They got about 6 of them that are really, really good right now. What'd you say?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, they got Corbin Carroll out there going to play left. They got McCarthy going to be Alec Thomas probably in center. Jake McCarthy in right. They got like a young studded outfield.
Ketel Marte can play outfield.
Ketel Marte. Did they get anyone back in the Varsho trade? Oh, they got Moreno, not an outfielder.
Yeah.
They got Yips though. Yips who plays outfield. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. For those who don't know who Yips is. He had the Yips for I think he still has the Yips. It's a forever condition. They got a lot of guys that can play outfield because Yips played left field last year. So crowded outfield, but Rookie of the Year winner. Came back, got injured, came back, wasn't doing as well. In spring this year, Sean. Okay, in spring. Now he was with Seattle before. 444. He's got 2 homers and 8 hits over 7 games. You never know. I mean, this is a guy who won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
A highly touted prospect. He won Rookie of the Year in 2020 over 60 games. He hit 11 homers with a 262, 364 on base. In 2021, he only played 36 games, was injured. In 2022, they basically had given up on him because they had Kelenic and Rodriguez coming up. The next up were already here. So he really never got even a chance to reclaim his status as a young rising superstar in the league. Maybe he gets a shot there in Arizona. Again, it's crowded. I don't know how or where, but looks like he's finally healthy. He looks good in spring. Hits the ball hard. I like Kyle Lewis a lot, and I hope that he reminds people why he was once a highly touted prospect Rookie of the Year, just literally 2.5 years ago. It shows how quickly this industry moves.
Do you know how high of a prospect he was?
I don't know what he was when he came up. I don't know what his last ranking was.
Okay. That's I like that pick. I like that pick.
I will look it up during your next pick. I will let you know.
My number one utility player is none other than another Dodger, Chris Taylor. Um,
Chrissy T, babe.
I've never been that high on Chris Taylor, to be honest. You love him because you watch him play. I don't really watch him play that much, and his stats just look kind of to me.
His
He strikes
stats
out
last year was
a
not
lot.
good.
He strikes out a lot.
Yeah, he does.
He was a 35% K rate last year. That's definitely higher than normal, but he usually sits close to 28, which is still quite high. Did not hit very well. He drove in 43 runs, had 10 home runs, stole you 10 bags. Good defender though, 3.6 defensive rating, and he plays pretty much every position out in the field. So I'm banking on his offensive side coming back and also rating his defensive side quite heavily because he's a utility player and he does have responsibility. Defense is pretty important to utility players because, they don't have the luxury of being in a position, like one set position. So that helps. But I honestly, between Muncy and him, I don't know why I chose Taylor, but for whatever reason, I felt a little more comfortable with him. But I expect Muncy to have a better year. So do with that what you may. Chris Taylor, my number one. So I got Dodgers back to back. Dan's old team. So yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about utility players, Sean, Dodgers are gonna take a lot of these spots because Dave
Yeah.
Roberts is no fucks. Mookie's playing at least 25 games at second this year was the direct quote I heard. So Mookie Betts will be my number one utility player for next year. I'm not ranking him in right fielders. We'll see that. I actually have a former Dodger at my number one, Sean. And that's going to be the guy named Ginger Jesus down there in Boston. Just took 98 off the face recently, Sean. Okay, this boy is still good. People still talk about him like he's washed. He's okay. I'm not saying he's MVP Justin Turner. Not that he ever won, but he was in conversations. But this guy's really, really good still. An elite hitter. He's not the defender he used to be. His post All-Star break slash line, Sean. This is like 70 games, okay? 303, 386, 503. That's a pretty good slash line right there.
Yeah.
Dodgers are pieces of shit. Let's just get that out of the way. And once he was able to focus on just hitting and resting, I'm talking about in Boston. Once he's able to, not once he was. Once he is able to, I really feel like he's going to take off. I think the responsibility of playing third base when he was not as good at third base anymore. He's had a lot of lower half injuries. He's going to be a DH there in Boston most of the time because they have who do they have there? Devers, obviously. The corners are kind of filled. They got Casas coming up. Let this man just DH and just hit like a JD Martinez type role with the short porch and right a little bit. You got the green monster and left. I think this guy can hit 300 is what I'm going to say to you. My projected stats are, however, 22 home runs, 285 average with a 350 on base. Stop sleeping on Justin Turner. Talking about leader. You get into the playoffs, not a soul I'd rather have at the plate in the playoffs than Justin Big Game Turner. There you go.
I like that. He just missed out on my list.
Okay, I like it.
Because of that injury.
Yeah.
I don't know. It may not be that long of an injury. I don't know, but just seeing that, it was kind of a tough thing.
No, I thought about it, and I had to give him a shout out. These lists are kind of fluid right now, at least for me. I shouldn't talk for yours. My list is fluid. I'm talking about guys that need to be mentioned, and he's on that list.
Fair enough. Now, would you like me to start with 5 DH and then you'll go to your 5 pitcher?
Sure. We are transitioning, folks. DH and pitchers, relief pitchers.
Yes, absolutely. My number 5 DH, none other than your favorite player to never put on a Dodger or Yankee uniform, Michael Brantley.
He's cold. Come on now.
I saw an article written, it was by Ben Verlander, actually. And I'm not usually a huge Ben Verlander guy, but he said Michael Brantley could hit 300 until he's 60 years old. And frankly, I agree with that. The guy, I just look at his numbers and I just get a smile across my face because he's a genuine good guy. He's a great player, and he just gives you his all. I don't even know what he sounds like. I don't know what his voice is. because
Yeah.
I've never heard him talk. But you need guys like that to kind of be selfless. I mean, he left the Indians, which that move right there, and you called it, was the end of the title window that the Indians had. They had a window there where they lost in 16. They went far in 17 into the playoffs, and then did not re-sign him after 18. He had some injury-plagued seasons in 16 and 17. 16, he only played 11 games. But since going to Houston, he's played over 120 games every year that it's been possible, except for this past year. He did have some injuries this year. But his average is always consistently around 280 to 300. He doesn't strike out. He's had a walk rate higher than a strikeout rate. Let's see here. 2 years in his career. 2 times. Guys don't even come close to that, let alone actually do it. That is phenomenal. Used to play a solid outfield. He's getting a little older. He's not really going to be playing too much outfield in Houston. Although playing left field in Houston is probably the best outfield to play if you're not great at covering ground because it's just so small out there. But Michael Brantley is getting slept on a year in and year out. And I firmly believe he's just going to put up another year. He hits like 280, 290, drives in probably 60, hits like 10 home runs, and calls it a day.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, is in 1,430 career games, so quite the sample size. He's hitting 298 with a 356 on base. I mean, I don't want to say Hall of Fame because I guess he doesn't have the counting stats and stuff for it. He only got 1,600 hits. He's had a lot of injuries in his career. But we're talking at bat for at bat. Michael Brantley is one of the best hitters, pure hitters that the game's ever seen. There's not a man that's a bigger fan than this guy. Guy had a 288 with a 370 on base last year. I don't know what you're supposed to do about that. And the little mini DH ranking, I have him written down here. I wasn't going to bring him up because I was sticking more to utility, but I love that out of you. I love that out of you. Michael Brantley. Before I start my pitching, Sean, I'd like to actually show a video of what I believe to be the greatest relief pitching appearance of all time.
To the bullpen for Clayton Kershaw. The 1-0 to Murphy. And he pops it up to the right side. Culberson, 2 out. Nationals down to their final out. The Los Angeles Dodgers are headed to Chicago.
Chooch?
That's Chooch. God, Sean.
When I saw Washington and Kershaw coming in, I thought it was a completely different thing that was about to happen. I thought you were about to make a joke about yourself.
Okay. Let's go to 2 years later, 2018. This is the second greatest appearance of all time. Look at the rest, guys. Look at the rest. Look at the horse. I don't want to hear anything about the playoffs.
Come out of the bullpen
He's got game 7,
during the
game 5.
postseason. Okay. Less structured. 2 days of rest for him, and he gets a ground ball to the right side, picked up by Turner, 1 out. With 1 out.
See it first. You never know what with the Dodgers.
Aguilar strikes out, and the Dodgers are 1 out away.
That was his big year, too. This was the year Jesus Aguilar went crazy.
First strikeout night for Jesus Aguilar.
It all starts.
The next from Kershaw. The Dodgers have won the pennant.
Yeah, baby.
Back to the World Series they go.
Kenley, you gotta be happy because you can't do it yourself. Oh, Manny. What a terrible year. And you got Manny with Chicago and blue. Anyway, had to share that on his birthday. A couple of stellar relief appearances for Kershaw to send the Dodgers to the World Series. However, my top 5 relievers, Sean, my number 5 is not Clayton Kershaw. But it is, again, I got some fun names here, Sean. I'm going to go 1 to 5. I'm going to finish at 5. I'm going off the rails here, Sean.
Okay.
You can't hold me back. Because 5, I have a little bit of a breakdown for number 5. I want to give it some time after that video. Emmanuel Clase is number 1. I don't think that's surprising anyone. I was really high on him last year. He did almost the exact same thing. He is as elite of a closer as we have ever seen, in my opinion, within a 2-year sample size. Not obviously over a full career, but within a small window, he's been as elite as you can be. Back-to-back years of 7 innings pitched and a 1 percentile expected ERA. And 1 percentile ERA. 126 and then 136. ERA. Back-to-back years over 70 innings pitched. He raised his strikeout rate by 2% from 26 to 28. Not a guy who strikes out the world, but that's still a high rate. Obviously, for a reliever, a little bit less so. And then he dropped his walk rate from 8%. From 4.7%, which was 8th percentile. Very good. He dropped to 4.7 to 3%, Sean. He lowered his walk rate to 3%, which was 1st percentile. Talk about the best ERA in the league, the best expected ERA in the league, and the best walk rate in the league. For a closer to have a low walk rate, I don't know, man. Emmanuel Clase is different. I'm projecting 1.95 ERA over 72 innings pitched. You can't project anything else. Clase is filthy. Please, Justin and Joe, do not take him off my team.
I like that. I like that a lot out of you. Frankly, there's not a pick that I don't like out of you most of the time. So just to be frank.
Thank you.
Now, what I can do is I can blow through my DHs real quick. If you want, I can run through them quick, or I can continue to go in depth.
You do what you got to show. I want do whatever makes you happy.
All right, I'm sure.
No, whatever makes you happy.
Okay. I'm just waiting. Just trying to stall now, waiting for my computer to load.
So you were stalling. You want me to go with my number 2 and you go back to back? I mean, what do you want me to do here, Sean?
Oh no, just loaded.
Okay, go for it.
My number 4, Joshua Bell. Frankly, I don't know if Joshua's his full name, but I assume it is. I mean, I don't know.
It has to be. Yeah, if it isn't, it should be. It's not your fault.
Maybe he's Josiah.
Mm.
I digress. He will be primarily DH next year, as he talked about the first base tandem over there in.
Well, he's in Cleveland. Sean.
Yeah, I said when you were talking about Pittsburgh, I said Josh Bell by mistake.
You did okay. I know if you meant he was similar.
I must. My brain must be in 2019 here. Forgot I said that. Josh Bell's in Cleveland. I think I got mixed up.
He's tandem with Josh Naylor. It's a good tandem over there. It's a great tandem. I like that tandem. I think Naylor's the first baseman there because he's a much better defender. So
yes, and he can hit too. Josh Bell, depends which Josh Bell you're getting. He's going to do well in Cleveland. If he doesn't have to play defense all much, that'll help him out quite a bit. And if Cleveland doesn't do well, they'll end up trading him at the deadline to another contender. So I don't have too much to add to him. Josh Bell is a solid player.
I love it. My number 2 reliever is a guy that is my background. Breaking onto the scene here, Sean, last year. Andres Munoz with the Seattle Mariners. Kind of a big reason they got to the playoffs. As we know, Seattle last year won one of the most one-run ball games ever, right? They won all these close games. Munoz is a big reason for that. Going through his stats, him and Pat Sewald. But Munoz ended up being the closer. He's going to get the lion's share of the closing opportunities this year. My only fear with him is that he's just a 2-pitch pitcher. But for a closer, that's kind of what usually it is. But they're both plus pitches. He doesn't walk anyone. He strikes out everyone. He has like a 40% K rate and like a 4% walk rate, which is, by the way, that's a 35% strikeout to walk rate. Most pitchers wouldn't dream of having a strikeout rate of 35%, let alone minus walk. He is elite as elite comes. Again, the biggest thing with relievers is they usually walk a lot of people. They're usually pretty wild. When you see guys that have, high run prevention and low walk rates as relievers, I mean, you can't get any better than that, Sean. And end of story. Projections for him is a 2 ERA flat, over 70 innings pitched. He's basically the same as Clase. He could be the best reliever in baseball. Next year, he could jump him. I could have done it, but Clase's done it for longer, and he doesn't. We got to see Munoz do it twice, and he's got to get on my team. Sean, come on, Clase's on my team right now, so they got a little preference
for the time being, at least.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks.
I like that. Class A, young, up and coming. There's a lot of really good young arms in the bullpen coming up
Yeah,
nowadays.
absolutely.
I mean, maybe 15, 20 years ago, these guys would have been starters most likely.
Right.
So we're kind of seeing this different breed of pitchers who have been relief pitchers their whole life, basically, which is very
Yep.
interesting to think about. So I like it. My number 3 designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton. Guy is hated pretty much by all Yankee fans out there. So you would think he sucks.
He does.
He doesn't suck
Okay.
when you look at the numbers. When you
No,
look
when
at
you
the
look at the
numbers.
numbers, he doesn't. When you look in the batter's box, looking like he's got something wrong with him.
Now the issue is he gets injured a lot, and last year, what happened to his average? Like it went from 273 to 211.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not ideal at all. And I think that the whole Aaron Judge home run chasing took a lot of pressure off him because you didn't hear much about him because everybody was focused on Judge.
Yeah.
But Stanton's not going to have that luxury next year. His on base percentage dropped from 354 the year prior to 297.
That ain't great.
That is insane. That is absolutely insane. His strikeout rate increased. His walk rate went up about 1%, so not much of a difference there. 31 bombs, 78 RBIs. I mean, that's not good, but I guess I'm banking on the potential and what he's done in years past and saying that last year was a blip. I don't know. He's also going to play, according to Aaron Boone, 40 to 50 to 60 games in the outfield this year. So I had him at DH, but there's a good chance he'll qualify as a right or left fielder. So
I
don't know.
think
This is going to be an interesting year for him because last year was his first bad year with the Yankees.
Yeah, I think DH is a pretty fair spot for him. I think that's what he is at this point. I don't even mind the ranking. I think it's pretty fair. I just dislike him as a person. Not as a person. I shouldn't say he's a person. I don't know him personally. This is batting stance. I think it's really just mostly his batting stance, Sean. It just makes me aggravated. However,
Fair enough.
I'm a Yankees fan with him, so I'm with him now. And I'm with you, so I'll meet you in the middle. I'll give you my number 3, even though we're going opposite directions here. It's fun that we can meet in the middle like this.
Yeah.
Another first-year pitcher last year. You see the turnover with relievers is crazy. Yohan Duran, Sean, with the Minnesota Twins, came up firing. This guy's crazy. Similar to Munoz, doesn't walk anyone, which is awesome, especially for a first-year reliever. But he's got a true 3-pitch mix. That's the difference between Duran and Munoz, which I'm like, he doesn't have as good run prevention, but maybe he could be the one that sticks. Maybe Munoz could be a blip. We'll see. He's got 100 in the tank and a 3-pitch mix as a reliever. He was a former starter, so that's why I guess he has those 3 pitches, but that's pretty crazy. Expecting a 2.4 ERA over 70 innings pitched, and he had a 29% strikeout to walk ratio. So, big fan of Duran. Put that on the shirt.
Big fan of Duran. Friend of the pod.
Friend of it.
So my number 2. It was nice meeting you in the middle, by the way. I didn't want to leave without saying goodbye. My number 2 is Bryce Harper. He won't be playing outfield much, probably moving forward in his career. He's going to be out for a while this year. I think is he getting Tommy John? Or I don't know exactly which surgery. It's a major surgery. Put it that way. He won't be able to throw for a while. So when he does come back, he's going to be in the outfield. Excuse me, not in the outfield. And Bryce Harper is one of the best players in baseball. That one hurt to say. I'm not going to lie. I don't hate him as much as I used to, which is crazy because on the Phillies, and I hate the Phillies more than I hate the Nationals. But I don't know if he's toned it back a little bit, being Bryce Harper, or what. But he's almost sort of, kind of, maybe likable once in a while. I can't believe I just said that. And also, he's won me over with his performance. He'll never hit for a high average consistently. He'll have years where he hits over 300 and years where he'll hit 240, or excuse me, 250. So that kind of fluctuates, but the production stays the same. He hits around 30 home runs a year, if not more. Drives in his fair share of runs. His strikeout rate fluctuates quite a bit over the years. It goes up 2%, then it goes up 4%, then down 4%, and up to it's kind of all over the place. And that's a good way to describe him, because to me he's a very unpredictable superstar. He's not like a Michael Brantley, like we said, pencil him in for 300 average every year. Another thing is interesting. I don't look at Bryce Harper's stats much because I find I don't look at the Stars stats that much when we're doing these rankings, or not rankings, when we're just talking about players, because you kind of know them, more than the other guys. He had a 6 defensive rating his rookie year.
Right.
139 games. Every year since then, it's been negative, which is kind of strange. It's like he was going hard as can go, and I don't know if maybe subconsciously or maybe on purpose, he kind of settled in a little bit. He's always had a good arm. And I will say in 2018, 2018, he had a negative 21.7 defensive rating, Fangraphs. So that is quite something. That's just a little tidbit that popped up there that I've never actually really seen before from him. But yeah, interesting.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, Harper's one of the best players in the leagues. I don't like it either, Sean. I don't like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But you know what it was, Sean? That home run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That was pretty fucking cool, man. That was pretty fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's done a lot of things that aren't cool. That was pretty cool. You kind of have to like that a little bit for the city
swag,
of Philadelphia. Because the swag finally fit. You know what I mean? It was finally like, okay, this is a respectable thing to act like this about. So good for him. My number 4 reliever, Sean. A man I traded to you, I believe, last year or 2 years ago at this point. You know who that is? Might have protected him. I don't know. A reliever that is Devin Williams. Did you protect him?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah, he is my number 4 reliever. He's finally gonna get that closer job now, Sean. Josh Hader's out of town. He's been one of the top 5 relievers in baseball for literally since he came up. It's just he's had one of the top 5 relievers in baseball on his team while that's happening, and he got there first, so he's had the role. But he's in San Diego now, right? He's still in San Diego, right? Yeah, because he was on. He had a couple years left. That was why that trade was so weird. But Devin Williams is filthy, man. The only issue with Devin Williams is he walks people. 12.5% walk rate the last 2 years in a row. 12.5 is, we're talking, it's one of the worst walk rates in the league. He also strikes hitters out at a 40% clip. So he kind of clears that up by striking out almost every other batter. So it doesn't really matter as much that he's walking 12% of them. But, I mean, his changeup, Sean, possibly one of the greatest pitches we've ever seen. I mean, there's not many. Possibly one of the top 5 changeups of all time. I mean, when I think of changeups, it's him and Pedro.
Reminds me of, get ready for this, Johan Santana.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great changeup. Yeah, I mean, it's Pedro, it's Santana, it's Devin. Like Devin Williams is going to be in that conversation just for a singular pitch. It's crazy shit. Just got to cut down on the walks. If he can cut down on the walks, he could be. I don't even know. 2.3 ERA is what I'm projecting. 65 innings. He hasn't had as much innings the last couple of years. I'd like to see him kind of take on a bigger workload. All the guys above him have 70 or more. That's kind of the biggest difference between him and the rest of the guys. So if he can get some more innings pitched, I'd love to see it. That's my number 4.
I like that out of you, and he's a fellow pending physical.
That's it.
I love to have him. I had him and Edwin Diaz. I was sitting pretty. Now Edwin Diaz is unfortunately out for the season.
Sorry. That's a nice trade for you. Who did I get in that trade? Because McKenzie had a fucking crazy year. McKenzie, people are talking about top 25 pitcher these days. McKenzie. Yeah. He came up in my top 15 rankings. People had him, not 15, but in that sphere. You know what I mean? In that range.
And I am very happy.
I forget who I got. Who did I give you? I gave you Williams and McKenzie.
I forget.
Shit on a stick, probably.
It was like 2 years ago. It was like early on the first year. I forget. Yeah. It was. I won the trade. Put it that way.
Yeah. All right, Sean. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Anyway, my number one defensive hitter, designated hitter, is none other than Shohei Ohtani. That's kind of a let the cat out of the bag without even saying anything. I pulled up his stats, but I really don't even need to read them off to you. Guy's a stud, and I guess he's not playing outfield anymore, which was kind of cool when he was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Otani is otherworldly. He's not human, and it's kind of a no-brainer to have him as number one DH.
Yeah. No, Sean, he's phenomenal. And what I'm doing right now is I'm going through to see if I can find the trade, because I do have everything listed in here. In this little binder I have. Trade with Sean. Oh no, that's Charlie Morton in 2022.
Is it like, do you like write it down?
Yeah, well, I have all their cards here.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then these are every player I've ever had for every season.
Wow.
So blue tape. If you see blue tape anywhere, I'm not seeing this coming. This is becoming a show and tell. That's my first bid. The little blue tapes are like special moments, Sean.
Okay.
But I think we're gonna find out maybe that I never wrote down my first trade with you. Unless it's this first trade. This is with JV. This is for Logan Webb and Julio Rodriguez for Ozzy Albies. And what a great trade that was, Sean. What a great trade that was. I don't know. I thought this was going to tell me that. Honestly, I'm upset because now I know that.
Is there a way to go see it in Fangraphs?
And Fantrax, yeah, there has to be. There definitely has to be. Anyway, folks, I will let you know somehow by next episode. I will let you know that details of that trade, because I have to find it for myself to put it in my little handy book. Oh, Sean. Oh, it's going off the rails here. We fixed it. Sean, as you know, during the season, I did a lot of pitcher breakdowns. You know what I mean? For my weekly. I got one last pitcher breakdown for this end of the 2022 season before we get into 2023. Tell me if you know this guy's name, because I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Jason Adams. You ever heard of Jason Adams?
No.
Well, what you're gonna do, Sean, is you're gonna leave here tonight knowing about Jason Adams, as I will.
I can't wait.
Because I just learned about him like literally 30 minutes ago. My notes for Jason Adams is, who the fuck is Jason Adams? Okay? This man is insane. Sure, you're going to be shocked with how good Jason Adams is. He could be the closer in Tampa Bay next year, and he may be the coolest example of a Tampa Bay pitching prospect I've ever seen, especially because I went through the whole season with him being so this good, and I didn't know. The only negative to Jason Adams is his BABIP was 195, which, yes, is unsustainable. But let's get into a pitching breakdown for Jason Adam. It's not even Adams. Sean, this is how, random this guy is. I don't even know his last name. I apologize. Jason Adams, to you and your family. Here he is. Okay, this is him. First off, let's look at the baseball savant. You're saying, who the hell is this guy? What is this, over 2 innings? This is over 63 innings, Sean. He had a 1.56 ERA last year in 63 in the third innings. You'd figure you would have heard about this guy. Let's take a look at the strikeout to walk ratio first. Also, the expected was 2.09, top 1% of the league. So this was real to a degree.
He's been in the league for a little while then, huh?
Been in the league for a little while. Chicago White Sox he was with, and one other team before the White Sox, who clearly did not know how to use his stuff the best. This is what Tampa does. They take you and they make you a different pitcher, and they bring the best out of you. Anyway, strikeout to walk ratio. So he's a 10, to 14% walk rate guy. High walk rate. Goes to Tampa, 6.4%. Now, I think a big reason of that is he's also striking out 36 to 40% of hitters. He's a high strikeout, high walk rate guy. They said, fuck the strikeouts, Jason. What is his name? Adam or Jason? Jason. I'm sorry, Jason. Fuck the strikeouts, Jason. Okay. We know you got the strikeout stuff, but if you stop throwing the ball all over the place, stop trying to be so perfect, maybe you don't walk as many hitters. Gets it down to a reasonable 6.5%. Still strikes out 32%. And look what the ERA does. Obviously, it wasn't just a change in approach. It's going to be a change in arsenal as well. Take a look at 2021. 57% fastball at 94 miles an hour, 17% curve, 16% slider, 11% changeup. I look at this and say it's pretty cool. He's a 4-pitch mix, and he's using 4 pitches above 10%. Tampa said, Jason, no, we're not doing this. All of a sudden, sliders at 35%, changeups at 33%, and fastballs at 32%. And the fastball kicks up in a mile per hour. I mean, this is a drastically different pitch distribution, again, than year one. Curveball, 17%, second best pitch, or second most utilized pitch, gone. Eliminated. Changeup and slider bumped up 20% apiece. Slider to his top pitch. Fastball drops down 20%. I mean, this is a huge change, complete overhaul of this guy. And, I mean, it worked out. It certainly worked out. Again, this is all red as fucking can be. Let's get to a year where he's always had a little bit of red, Sean. I guess he's just had – so this is what the Rays do. They find guys with, like, crazy good spin rates, and they're like, let me tell you how to effectively use your stuff because you have this stuff. See? That's Tampa. That's why I like Zach Eflin for this year, Sean. They gave Zach Eflin a contract, a big contract. They don't do
Biggest
that.
in their history.
They don't do that to a random Phillies pitcher that's not working. What happened last time a team that's okay with pitching gave money to a random Phillies pitcher that wasn't working? The Phillies did that with the Mets. Never mind, that was the reverse. But that was Zach Wheeler. No offense, Sean. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. Who knows? Zach Eflin's probably something. But we're talking about Jason. Like I said, completely overhauled the pitch distribution. He's 31 years old. And the season he had, I'm happy for him and his family. He's a top 5 reliever on my list because I just think it's so cool. I wanted to give him the shout out. I think he's one of the coolest Tampa Bay projects I've seen in a while. Who knows? 1.56 over 65 innings?
That's crazy. The fact we don't know about him is even crazier.
How did we not hear about him?
Because
How did he not make the All-Star team or, like, no one talked about him at all?
Well, you'll see him a lot this year when your Yankees play the Rays.
I'll be looking out for him. And if Class A gets taken off my team, Jason Adams could be the newest Red Hot.
Well, I think you might just let the cat out of the bag. Now he might be a hot commodity.
He might be a hot. Come on, I shouldn't have done a pitcher breakdown. You're right.
I'm taking notes over here.
That's all I got. That's all I got for a reliever, Sean. And I'm sorry, 6 and 7 is obviously Hendricks and Hader. The players that probably should have been on the list, but we gotta highlight the guys that don't get highlighted, Sean. These are the guys that need their name to be spoken, and that's what I'm here to do.
Well, I feel enlightened. I feel smarter for it, and I appreciate it.
It's not as much value if I'm talking about those guys. They already know. The fans know about Hendricks. They know about Hader. Did you know about Jason Adam? I don't know if you did.
No.
What do we got going on next week? Because I don't even know.
Predictions, division winners, playoff teams, MVPs, other awards. It's going to be a very fun week. I'm very much looking forward to it.
That is going to be crazy. I got to start thinking about my predictions. I think I know who I'm going NL MVP. I think I know what I'm doing there. Other than that, that's it.
I got to do my research.
Yeah. I have to do all my research too. I just off the top of my head. I know I just put another $25 on Juan Soto doing it last night, so I'm hoping that he's bringing it home, baby. Juan Soto. I said it like 2 years ago on the podcast. He's winning the next 5 in a row, and then he had the worst year of his career. So we got to book something.
Book it.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. Sean, you have anything else for him?
No. Do we have a pick a card?
I'm sorry. I know. I'm so bad at that, Sean.
No, not a problem. Not a problem.
I'll get it out for him. Maybe serve a pick a card.
Stop.
Jason Berry? B-E-R-E. Jason B-E-R-E. Guys, if you want any of our pick a card, any cards, comment down below. I saved them in a separate little bin. If you want any of our previous ones, comment down below, and I will ship it out to you. Okay? From me to you. We're not doing first class mail here. I'm putting 2 stamps on it. All right, but I will ship it out to you for free.
How do you spell his last name?
Bere. Bere. Right?
B like beer and then an E at the end of it?
Bere. There's only one E in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
He was 6'3", 185 pounds. Throws right, bats right. He's playing for the White Sox here, Sean. Had a 3.47 ERA. Went 12-5 over 24 games pitched. Not a big strikeout guy, although no one really was in those days. 129 strikeouts in 142 innings. 81 walks, though. That man's got a little bit of wild thing there, Sean. Not a big fan of that. Anything on him?
So he played 11 years in the majors. Was a one-time All-Star in 1994. Career record of 71.65 and a career ERA of 5.14.
What was his All-Star season? Career at 5 point.
He's 12-2, 3.81 ERA.
What are you gonna do? Any other notes on him other than the All-Star? I mean, congratulations, Jason.
I don't think so.
Let's see here.
He
I like
finished
to get
second in Rookie of the Year voting in 1993.
Yeah.
So he definitely had a good career ahead of him, and it kind of
Okay.
just faded away.
Selected
But
in
he
the
did play
36th
for 11
round.
years.
11 years is a great career.
Yeah, I think he's a coach now.
That was his rookie card too. I feel like we're always getting rookie cards. He got selected in the 36th round of the 1990 Major League Draft.
Huh.
He was rated as the 8th best prospect in baseball.
Really? Well, he had a good start to his career.
Yeah. Interesting. The Indians chose Beery as their new bullpen coach, succeeding Kevin Cash, who is now Tampa Bay Rays manager. But in 2015, he became the Indians bullpen coach, taking over for Kevin.
Got to be able to say that if a baseball player has symptoms.
Sean, what the hell was that there?
I found an article about him. There was just a video that happened to be playing.
Okay.
So this is NBC Chicago. NBC Sports.
Okay.
The first line of the article is, it's not often that a 36th round draft pick leaves fans wondering what could have been. That's just how good Jason Beer was when he burst onto the scene with the White Sox in 1993 and 1994. Remember that guy?
No. But I'm glad someone does. I am, for Jason. And I'm glad more people will remember him after this podcast.
Now, would you like to hear some of the names on the list of top 100 prospects that he was with in that 1993?
I would love to. Give me the top 10 or the cool ones.
So I found it. Chipper Jones, Brian Taylor, Cliff Floyd. I love Cliff Floyd, Mets legend. Carlos Delgado, another Mets legend. Tim Salmon, Will Cordero, who I believe was another pick a card at one point.
Yeah.
Todd Van Poppel and Beer, though that was the top 10 or top 8, whatever it was.
Yeah, Todd Van Poppel, ball player.
With that name.
Ball player, that Todd Van Poppel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Check out our Instagram. We still got the rankings list coming out. You know, we're a little bit behind on that, so keep looking at. They'll be done in the next couple weeks. Guys, I'm catching up. Guys, I had my first big win was last week, so I'm catching up. Help me again tonight. I love you. We'll see you next week with the awards and season projections and rankings. Season's projections, Sean. I'm sorry. We love you all.